The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media mobster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
Welcome to the Full Court Report. We are four guys in four different cities talking about NBA basketball. Hi, my name is Mo. I am in Los Angeles. We have Chris Savage over there in New York City, Bradford Graham in Sydney, Australia, and Gino Rufino in Metro Manila, Philippines. Guys, it's nice to be back on the show to talk some hoops and to go taking first quarter duties, I believe, is Brad over there in Australia. Hey, Brad, you got 12 minutes, man. You are on the clock.
Thanks,
what do you got for us, my friend?
So we've got a pretty, pivotal sort of matchup between Cleveland and San Antonio coming up as part of Cleveland's Texas Swing. The last time these two teams faced each other in the Alamo, Kyrie Irving exploded for a franchise record 57 points, including a game-tying triple that he hit over Kawhi Leonard, which, Leonard obviously went on to become Defensive Player of the Year, so I don't know how much, we want to put into that particular play. But even with the win, LeBron still has a losing career record against the Spurs. For one reason or another, they just seem to be able to always unravel the king. So my first of a few questions is, does this contest mean more to Cleveland or San Antonio? Where do we stand on this game carrying extra meaning over, say, Cleveland's visit to Orlando?
I think it means a little bit more to the Spurs just because they've got that shiny home record, that undefeated, So again, battle of two titans, two teams that are extremely hot, both have, extended winning streaks and stuff. But it's that shiny 22-0 that I think Cleveland has to probably be in their mind, right? And I think that maybe it might mean a little bit more to the Spurs.
The Warriors record, so here's J.R. Smith's chance to knock off the Spurs record.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's for the Spurs because they need to get as much wins as possible to keep pace with the Dubs. Right. I mean, with Draymond Green health and Steph Curry's health also a little bit questionable, this is a time for the Spurs to be able to catch up, and maybe, who knows, maybe by the end of the regular season, maybe they could be the number one seed in the Western Conference.
It's just another regular season game for Coach Pop. This means more for the Cavs. It always means more for LeBron because they increase scrutiny on him and showing that he can win with his team and his two teammates in this big three. It means more for the Cavs. Just another regular season game for Coach Pop and his crew.
You think Pop gets fazed by the perfect home record or any of that stuff, or that just not a big deal to him? I mean, is there anything out there that kind of gets him excited that's not championship?
This is just another regular season game for the Spurs. This game means a lot more to the Cavaliers, especially as LeBron James, always more scrutiny on him to see if he can play with these two teammates. He can win at the level, the big three getting it done. Coach Popovich, just another game for him in the regular season. Again, Cavaliers, much more important for them.
Did you think that but is there anything out there that Popovich can get excited about that's not just the NBA Finals trophy? I mean, the championship. Like, is this record, the 22-0? Do you think that he values that in any capacity because it's such a nice, shiny record?
No, I don't think
Absolutely
so.
not. I think the title is what he wants. I think that even having the number one seed is not that important to him. He's not going to go for it if it means risking injury for his top players. That's really all that matters to Popovich and his crew out there in San Antonio.
See, but the thing is, normally I would agree with that. But I mean, after what happened to the Spurs last year when they got bounced out by the LA Clippers, I think, especially now in the Western Conference when they're so top heavy with the Spurs, the Dubs, and OKC, I think they kind of need some sort of home court advantage. And if they can reach the Dubs, I think they would go for it. If they can overtake the Dubs' record, I really think they would go for it this year.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing here is whether or not Pop's going to reinstate his philosophy of I'm just going to rest guys, and it is solely about the playoffs. I mean, at what point does Golden State become, out of reach? But even still, I think they had such a good win in Detroit, and they're riding sort of high. They're a really hot team right now. I think this game's got to mean something. It's got to be part of their measuring stick for the year. I mean, Pop's gonna want to see what LaMarcus Aldridge can do against these guys, and if Tony Parker can carve up Kyrie Irving and continue his hot form, and whether Leonard has taken that next step, and whether he can show the home fans, hey, you know what, LeBron James isn't all that. I can actually pull up a chair next to the king's throne and eat a meal too. So I think there's a few little subplots here now. Whether it means more to San Antonio or Cleveland, I'm going to side with it means a little more to Cleveland. Just because LeBron has this, career losing record, which, is one of only 3 teams that he has a career losing record against, which I'm sure he really wants to rectify before his playing days are done. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go out.
I'm going to ask the same question about LeBron though as I did about Pop. Brad, do you think that LeBron cares about that stuff? Like, does he get into Texas and go, you know what? I've got a career losing record against this team. This is the same guy. All right,
this is the same guy who recently read a tweet about his shooting percentages and turned around and went on a hot streak because he wanted to quiet the doubters. It's like, LeBron is very, very sensitive and conscious of what's said about him and what's sort of floating out there. And he seems to react to this stuff more so than other superstars. Maybe part of it's just finding motivation where he didn't have any before, or maybe it's just sort of propelling himself throughout the drudge of the regular season. But I definitely think he sees this as a sort of challenge, whether it's personal or team orientated. I definitely think he wants to go into San Antonio and win, and he wants to secure a home court for his Cavaliers. And I think he sees this as, look, if I can win back the psychological advantage against Pop and the Spurs, maybe they have to change their game plan. We won't have to worry about changing ours, at least as much anyway. So I think this matters to LeBron. I think it has to matter to LeBron.
You have a percentage of superstars out there who they need perceived slights. They need that motivation. We saw it all the time with Jordan. We saw it with Kobe Bryant. LeBron has gotten there in his career where he has like this killer instinct where he just wants to go forward. He wants to find reasons to prove people wrong. And maybe it was all the scrutiny he had in leaving Cleveland that first year in Miami and even losing the title last year. It's so important to him now. It's why it's so important for this game.
Right, and Jordan had the kryptonite, which was the bad boy Pistons because of their rough and tough play, but eventually he overcome them. We still are yet to see LeBron overcome these Spurs in the way that Jordan did with the Pistons. And I think that's the legacy stuff that's at play here, that LeBron wholeheartedly wants to turn 45 and say, no one team could take me down.
And you know what? I guarantee you 100% that LeBron James thinks about that because when I had the chance to interview him several times here, that's one of the things that he said, that he's been under a microscope since he was about 15, 14 years old. And stuff like this does bother him. Stuff like this is something that he thinks about. So, I mean, to say that he doesn't really care about these records or these, not just these wins in a regular season, but these game within games, I mean, I think it really does mean something to him more than I think it would for guys like a Tony Parker or a Tim Duncan or people like that. But I think LeBron really looks at these games and it really does play a factor in his psyche.
I mean, the other
That's
thing
interesting
here
to
too
me.
is, look, LeBron's an historian and he's proud to be a basketball historian. So I think that plays into this as well. Now, I guess where this was sort of taking me is, regardless of what happens in this game, is this year's version of the Cavs better than last year's version? And I mention this because at 38 games into the season last year, the Cavs were 19-19. Now they're 27-9. Do we wholeheartedly, legitimately believe that this year's version of the Cavs is superior to last year's version that almost won the finals?
Yes. 100% yes. They needed...
Good.
No, I was going to say they needed that year to get used to each other. I mean, especially Kevin Love, LeBron James, and Kyrie Irving. I know Kyrie's been out for most of the year, but after that year and after tasting that loss in the NBA Finals, I think that sits there with them, and I think definitely
tasting the loss, man, they were shoveled crap after crap after crap. Like,
that is one of the reasons why this game is more important to Cleveland. To show that they are a better team than last year, to show that they can go out there and beat the best teams. So again, this game is way more important for Cleveland, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, and obviously, again, just kind of bouncing off of what Gino said and them being better. I mean, it's also the squad. It's not even just the star players, but even the role players. Right. They didn't have Mozgov to start the season. They made in the trades to grab that Nick backcourt. So to have all of those guys kind of together for a year to truly gel, again, to do these 82 games that where maybe some players would complain it'd be too long. This is, again, another reason why the long season is good for gelling and for chemistry and to see what a team can do when playing together for an extended period of time. And yeah, absolutely. It's not just the record that shows it. I think it's pretty obvious. This Cavaliers team this year leaps and bounds better than the team last year, but so are the Warriors, and so are the Spurs. So it doesn't equate to a championship automatically.
And
even though
so is OKC.
Even though they're much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would anyone be surprised if Cleveland went into San Antonio and ended that home streak? I mean, does the King walk away with a win and we act surprised, or is that half of the course?
It's not a surprise whatsoever. It's not a surprise whatsoever.
Interesting.
It's a rough schedule though for Cleveland. They came off a tough win in Dallas. They're in Texas right now doing that Texas swing of games, the triangle. So they got the Spurs the next day. They got the Rockets. Then they got the freaking Warriors. I mean, it might be either something that they go, okay, this week's our defining week. This week, let's go out there and let's kick some ass, or they're like, boy, we're drained, man. This is a tough trip. We got some tough teams coming up. So it really is, I think, up to them mentally where they're going to be when this week is done, because it's a rough week for them.
Well, they've also been
any game with LeBron James on their team, especially in last year's finals. Can we say that anytime LeBron's on the court, that it's a surprise when his team wins? I don't think we can ever say that, to be honest with you.
Do you think it's any chance that Curry could go for another explosive performance? Is he out to sort of prove again that it wasn't a fluke, that the full Curry All-Star guard is back, or do you think Pop's going to sort of turn his attention to making sure there's no repeat from what he did, earlier in 2015?
He's gonna have a harder time doing it. I think this is all, again, as much as we talk about the improved Cleveland team, this is such an improved Spurs team, and they've gotten so much better this year than they were last year. Is that I don't know if another team can go ahead and another player can go out and put 50 points up on a team like this the way they're playing defense this year. So I mean, I'm not expecting Kyrie Irving to put 50 or anything like that, but if he's planning to do it, he's gonna have a harder time this year than he did last year.
The question becomes, if the Spurs can win this easily, can they win 70 games? Can we see two teams do it? Because the Spurs are almost on pace to do it. Why not?
Wow.
Sure. All right. Well, time's up here at quarter number 1. It's a big game, by the way, and it's going to be an exciting one in the next few days. So let's take a break. When we come back, we have more of the full court report. It will be quarter number 2, and I think we're going to go to Gino Ruffino in Manila for that. So back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. We are at quarter number 2. Another 12 minutes on the clock, and we are taking it to Manila, Philippines with Gino Ruffino. Gino, my friend, you're up. What do you got for us, buddy?
Thanks, Mo. A couple of episodes ago, I do recall saying that the Chicago Bulls are the 4th best team in the NBA. What happened since then? 3-game losing streak. Thank you very much.
We've officially got the Gino jinx.
No, but we've been jinxing all season long. Man. Man, the Pelicans are going to make the playoffs. And they're going to lose like 6 in a row.
George Karl's going to be gone by the end of 2015.
Right. All of a sudden, they're in the playoff run. It's awesome.
The New Orleans Mo Twisters aren't doing very well.
Sure.
So basically, the Bulls' 3-game losing streak. And yesterday, something happened that's never happened before. Chicago Bulls star Derrick Rose goes down with an injury, and he doesn't finish the game. And they ended up losing to the Bucks, which was their 3rd loss in a row. Derrick Rose is listed day-to-day with an injured knee. He did not practice today. and is considered questionable to play against the Sixers. Well, first of all, he shouldn't even bother playing against the Sixers. Now, this season, Rose has missed about 5 games. He's been averaging, well, a pedestrian 14.7 points per game, 4.9 assists per game, and 3.2 rebounds per game. His career averages 20 points, 6 assists, and about 4 rebounds. So if you're Fred Hoiberg, what do you do? Are you gonna be a little bit more cautious with Derrick Rose that he went down with another knee injury? Do you try and move one of your bigs in Pau Gasol, Noah, Gibson, and try and find another backup point guard? I mean, what are your options here? Because Derrick Rose said it's not a big deal. But it's Derrick Rose saying that it's not a big deal. But aside from just the injury, his play hasn't been that great.
The team medical staff actually has something to say about it. Because if the medical staff says that he's got to sit out a month in order to sort of repair the torn, whatever the hell he's done to his knee this time, I don't trust Rose in this instance either, Gino, in terms of, I'm cool. I can play. I mean, yeah, man, it's of course Derrick Rose is going to say that he's fit and can play, but we also know that at times that's been counterproductive for the Bulls. Mm-hmm. Derrick Rose still won't hand over, the torch completely to Jimmy Butler. He says, in interviews that I've read online that he's, helping obviously Butler be a better leader, and not even sure how that even sort of can be tangibly measured. But
it's not working. That's not working.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, look, with D Rose, I actually think that they should stick this one out at least this year. I think pulling the trigger now on a trade might not be the best play. I think if they're going to move someone, maybe freeing up some front court room is fine. But I just think, keep Derrick Rose, see how it plays out this year. I still think he's got something left in the tank, but then I would reassess it knowing that he's only got 1 year left on his contract after this. And I think you could be wiser about assessing him in the offseason versus, halfway through this year, because he still has the chance to turn it around, and they're not, the Bulls don't stink, but they're just going through a bit of a lull, and they shouldn't drop against them.
Is this team worse without Rose? Because I don't think they are. I think they might be better without him, at least the same.
I think they could be at least the same without him. But I think once you reach the playoffs in a 7-game series, you're going to need him. But
I don't know. I think it's, look, maybe Derrick Rose is the whole Blake Griffin case all over again. Maybe it's you remove a star and everyone else steps up. Maybe it's kind of a false, measurement in some ways.
It is a deep team. I mean, I don't think they need to make any trades for another backup point guard. They've got 3 point guards on this team. Maybe you can argue that possibly 4. I mean, your next man up, Aaron Brooks is there. Kirk Heinrich is there. So, I mean, these guys, they've got a very deep team.
But Mo, the point is, do you want one of those guys starting come playoffs? Yeah. Like, that's the question. Do you really want
Rose is not a superstar this year? Who cares?
The problem, in my opinion, with the Bulls, and I do try to catch them as often as I could, is really just the usage rate of Rose. I mean, he's worthy of being a starter on this team, and playing even heavy minutes. Just don't allow him to be the focal point of the offense, and that's what hurts.
But he's the point guard. You almost by default don't get a choice.
Right, but he takes a ton of shots that are not very point guard-esque if we're talking about what traditional point guards do.
Are you talking about moving Rose to the bench and making him a super sub? Are you saying Derrick Rose 6th man?
No. I'm saying he should be with the starting crew. He should not be taking jump shots. He should really kind of know where he's effective in. Like, listen, Jimmy Butler recently, in this past week or so, has really been facilitating the offense. He had back-to-back 10-assist game. He had 6 assists, 7 assists in the past 2 games as well. So we're starting to see kind of Jimmy Butler take over these ball games, and it's a good look for the Bulls. It's good at this point of the year for them. Yes, there's a 3-game losing streak, and that's not where they want to be. But again, we're trying to find identity with this team. They need to gel a little bit more. They don't know what they have in Mirotic yet. I think sometimes they think they've got a great player, and sometimes he kind of gets disappeared. They don't know where their defense is at. There are a lot of things to work on, and not to worry too much about Derrick Rose.
Isn't that the common theme with this team? They don't have an identity all year. We discussed that all year. They don't have an identity. Yeah. And even with their coach, he hasn't built an identity for them. That's a major factor with or without Rose.
We're barely halfway into the season. You kind of just hope that they're going to find this in the next month and a half.
Well, I think this. Look, Derrick Rose might have his faults, but I think their ceiling is higher with Rose on this team.
Yeah,
I think if you trade Rose, I mean, again, it might be hit and miss, or he might only be great 1 every 3 games. But I think with Derrick Rose, there are still flashes, there are still instances where he reminds you of what he's capable of. He still has great games. He apparently says that his eyes are much better, so he's seeing, only 2 instead of 3 baskets every time he dribbles down the court now. And so it's just the case where I think maybe they just have to ride this out.
Here's my point about you saying flashes, right? Yes, we do see flashes. We do on an occasion see him grab the ball and do something that looks like Derrick Rose of the MVP season. The problem is if Derrick Rose feels like he's still that player, that's what hurts the Bulls, where he does one move and go, oh, see, I still got it. Give me the rock again. And then he's going to screw it up the next time around. He needs acceptance that I am not that player anymore. I can't be that player anymore.
That's huge. That's a huge part of it. He needs to do that, or they will have less and less of an identity because it's not his team anymore. And we need Jimmy Butler, the best player on the team, to take over. Whether there's leadership issues or not, he needs to be the best player on the court. That's number one for them to be.
So you guys would keep all 3 bigs in Pau, Noah, and Gibson?
Absolutely. Yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think it's a question. I am most excited though to see what type of great suit Derrick Rose will have on the bench this time around. So that'll be a good thing.
Your fashion blog's going to be buzzing with feedback here, Chris.
I think
the thing with the big 3 and the clutter that they've got up in the front court, it just falls back on the coach with managing them, working out systems to get them more involved, finding ways for Derrick Rose to get them easier shots, and ultimately just trying to build the offense around those guys rather than around some sort of jump shooting contingent from the outside. I mean, if their strongest weapons up front, exploit teams by going inside a lot more. And, just because the Warriors are draining threes left, right, and center doesn't mean the Bulls have to, if that's not how they're built.
Yep, absolutely agree with that one. Now,
sure, and the problem is not the offense anyway with the Bulls. It really is the defense. The defense has always been the problem this entire year. And losing Derrick Rose, and then you say you're back up. The next guy up is a Kirk Heinrich, who's an excellent defender at the point guard position. We might see a better functioning, a better playing Chicago Bulls team without Derrick Rose. But again, back to Brad's point, I think absolutely having him healthy is what's best for this team.
Okay, now let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic. Yesterday, news came out that the Toronto Raptors shooting guard DeMar DeRozan, who is about 26 years old and still in his prime, will opt out of his contract to test free agency this summer. Now, the Lakers have been rumored to be willing to offer the LA native and former USC standout the maximum deal.
Gino, did you start this rumor?
No, I didn't.
That's what it sounds like.
DeMar is leading Toronto with 22.9 points per game. His assists are 4.1, rebounds 4.4. Career year so far for DeRozan. Should be an all-star this year, but is he worth a maximum contract? Whether with the Lakers or whoever.
Right. As far as production goes, according to Mo, if he's got more production than Dwayne Wade, he's a superstar.
Ooh. When the hell did I say that?
Superstar.
Hell no, I didn't say that. I think he's a little one-dimensional for a max contract. The athleticism tends to go quick in the NBA. It's a young man's game, and I don't know if a max deal for extended a period of time is a good idea for a guy like this who doesn't really kind of bring it defensively. And again, like I said, one-dimensional of a game.
We spoke about this before. He plays a position where you can be one-dimensional, and if that one-dimensional is very accelerated, if it's among the top of the league, among not as good as Harden, but among the Clay level, among those type of players level, D-Wade, above average D-Wade level, that maybe they're worth a max contract at the shooting guard position. I think he's just as good as a candidate as the next guy.
Yeah, but give me a team that plays the heavy isolation that wins. DeMar DeRozan's game is not built on you giving him the ball and he's going to do something with it immediately. It's a lot of dribbling. It's a lot of standing around. It's a lot of James Harden kind of like, and he's not James Harden elite status. So, I don't see where a max contract is worthy of that kind of style of play.
If the Lakers can secure his services, but they can pair him with a really capable backcourt playmaker or an exceptional frontcourt playmaker, then I think the DeRozan buy is a huge win.
The
for
Raptors
LA.
have an exceptional playmaker in Kyle Lowry, and if
they do.
Larry.
But what DeRozan seems to be saying, if he's going to opt out to test the market, is he feels that his value is only increasing, his stock price is only going up, and he feels that LA, being the hometown native and all the rest of it, okay, Kobe's off the books, there's a vacancy there in LA, he could come back home, he could help turn the Lakers around. the cap's going to blow up in a couple of years. What is it, 18 months? The salary cap's going to double or something ridiculous. I mean, that's an exaggeration, of course, but, the Lakers are going to have a lot of spending money, and if they can get DeRozan and maybe two other pieces, all of a sudden it doesn't look like such a bad buy.
Yeah. Because
why are the Lakers looking to get DeRozan anyway? Are they losing their shooting guard this year or something? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's another question though. But I mean, where does DeMar rank in the shooting guards in the NBA today? I mean, would you put him in the top 4, top 5? Well, I mean, you have James Harden, Klay Thompson, probably 1 and 2. So, but where does DeMar fall among the shooting guards in the NBA today?
Yeah.
Well, Mo would put him 4 because Dwayne Wade is just above average, so he's definitely top 5. Harden,
Top
Butler,
5? I don't know. Let's see here. Can we throw some names out there? Top 5.
Dwayne Wade.
Harden,
where's Dwayne Wade?
Harden. Okay, Harden. You said Thompson. You have Jimmy Butler, the aforementioned Eric Bledsoe. You got C.J. McCollum. I mean, there's quite a few names out there that might be on top of that.
Anyone of 600
better than McCollum and Bledsoe. DeRozan's definitely better than McCollum and Bledsoe. I really feel that way.
So Chris, would you put him after Harden, Klay, and Butler?
It comes down to him. He's top 5. Him, Klay, and Wade are there 3, 4, 5. So I'll say that Klay's slightly better. And I still think Wade is better, despite what Mo Twister says. I'll say he's 5.
So you say he's the 5th best shooting guard in the NBA. Okay.
Classic Chris. Oh, anyone from my past is better of anyone of the present. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have the halftime show. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away. Back after this.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
It's halftime on the Full Court Report, and let's move away from basketball and talk about the big drawing tonight here in the United States, and that's the $1.5 billion Powerball lottery.
With a B.
It's a huge, with a B. A huge extravaganza here. After cut money to the tax man, it'll still be a good $600-700 million, which is obviously life-changing. So I'm going to pose the question.
Anthony has his ticket.
Yeah, well, I have my ticket. I'm ready, and it is a winning Charlie and Chocolate Factory golden ticket because I will. You won't hear it from me for a couple weeks, guys, but I'll be back in about a month after I win. But anyway, I want to talk about
wearing some sort of golden robe.
To my co-host, throw it out there. If you won, what would you do with that money? So I'll send it down under first, Mr. Graham. Why don't you tell us what you would do with $670 million?
If tomorrow I win Powerball, look, say I win half that money, say half of it goes to the tax man, whatever. I can, I'm happy to do that because I've never seen $600 million before.
Sure.
I would actually open my own movie studio.
Makes sense.
I would finance scripts and projects that I want to see on the big screen. And I would work with the directors and the actors and all the people that I would like to work with, and I would like to see more of the kinds of movies that really sort of that are to my fancy. So yeah, I would open BG Studios, and I would let you all submit scripts, and then I would shoot you down in a board meeting and say your ideas are terrible.
So who's one director and one actor right off the top of your head that immediately you'd want to work with for your first picture with all that money?
Well, it would be an absolute dream of mine to fund or collaborate with Wes Anderson on a project. So
nice.
If I could do that,
very nice.
And maybe look, maybe the Wilson brothers, Luke and Owen. I've been a big fan of theirs for over a decade now. So yeah, if I could get the Wilsons and Wes Anderson, then dream come true. There's money well spent.
Now, Wes Anderson might turn you down, though. Remember that, just because of his own.
Look, that's cool with me. I just want to get to the table.
I like that. So I'll shoot over to Gino Ruffino next. And Gino, I don't know much about you, but I heard you might already have that in the bank. But tell me what you do with another kind of $600 million in your pocket.
Well, I want to think of the 1.5 billion because that's more fun. So if I had 1.5 billion and I don't have to give half of that to the tax man in the United States since I don't live there. I know we're not supposed to talk about basketball, but I would buy my own NBA team. I know not all NBA teams you can buy with 1.5 billion. But maybe a team like I don't know, maybe
The
like
Lakers.
you can't buy the Lakers for 1.5 billion.
They're valued at a little more than 1.5.
Maybe you can buy the Sixers. Maybe you can buy the Nets. I mean, Prokhorov might be willing to give that up for something.
No. He's
No way.
I would buy an NBA team.
He'd kill you in your sleep.
I would buy an
They'll give you
NBA
Shane
team,
Larkin for $600 million.
and I would draft. I would sign to a free agency the first pure blood Filipino from the Philippines, preferably from the PBA.
And
you know what? You know what this
and
smells
use
like?
an
This
contract.
smells like Gino. Gino's going to become the first player owner in the NBA.
You got it right.
That's right. He's the free agent he's signing is Manny Pacquiao.
No. It's gonna be me. I'm gonna be the starting point guard on my own NBA team.
That's right. You see,
Or
we're
Bobby
Filipinos.
Brown.
We're all
Yeah,
alike.
Bobby Brown.
All Filipinos alike. You get a little money, you play on the team you own. That's
Yep.
how we do it back home.
Absolutely, no doubt. Okay, Mo, so what about you? $1.5 billion.
It's all about distribution with family, man. It kind of in our family, it's a group win, So if I win, we're 5 siblings. It's 20% each, man.
No. When
That's
you
so
win
sweet.
1.5 billion, you're going to find out that you've got 600 cousins all of a sudden.
Oh, no. See, here's the thing. Okay, so our culture, again, back to the Philippines, we're a very community, family kind of raising type of culture, right? However, I'm only about my core group. Like, screw my cousins. F you, don't know you anymore. It's my siblings and my parents. If I win some money and like, hey, you remember my first cousin, you lived in my house. I don't live in anybody's house. It's all about my siblings, my parents. It'll be divided in 20% each, and that's how it's going to be. And we're going to all move in our own little island next to Gino's island and completely snob all our cousins, first cousin, second cousin, third cousin. I don't care. It's all about my siblings.
Okay, so the purchase would be the island. So that's good. Okay, good.
Sure.
Very sweet. Obviously, I expected a thoughtful, sweet answer from you. So I'm going to go in the other direction. So for what I would do, first of all, a gentleman was interviewed. It was the most honest answer to an interview, too, what he would do with the money. And he said immediately to the reporter, a lot of cocaine and hookers. So I wish more people would answer that honestly. Now, I wouldn't go to that far. And we talked about people coming out of the woodwork. Unfortunately, New York, where I live, you have to come forward and announce. I know that I'd always have these bloodsuckers who say they know me coming out of the woodwork, so I would just shut them down immediately. So what I would do with my money, though, is I would run for a major political office. That type
Sweet.
of power. That type of power is better than any any amount of money. And I would just be that guy front and center, pushing my agenda, whether you agree with it or not. I'd be the loudest guy, banging my drum. It's not like the United States is used to that. Oh, wait, they are. But I would be a different kind of Donald Trump. I would be the type of guy who just went on the other side of the issues and would go head-to-head with the Donald Trump type.
All
but
right,
yes,
Mo.
I would
2020 elections, get ready for Chris Trump.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, I'll endorse you. I'll vote for you.
Is there a not Donald Trump
You guys
Twitter
in the
account?
Philippines know how that is. If the richer you are, the bigger
they should be.
spot you get in politics.
Absolutely.
Not that much in the United States here, and maybe a little less of a degree, but I would really push my agenda that way.
Yeah,
but
too true. All right.
Great
All right, we
feedback.
got to take a break.
Awesome.
All right, so we're out of time here, overtime. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have our second half. Don't go away. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. We are at our second half now of the show, and leading the way here in quarter number 3 from New York City, please welcome Chris Savage. Chris, you got 12 minutes, my friend, and you are on the clock. What's up?
All right, fellas. Let's talk about something first that ESPN came out with a ranking of the top 10 point guards of all time. I'm going to quickly go through the list in order. You have at the top, no question, is Magic Johnson, followed by Oscar Robertson, John Stockton, Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas, Chris Paul, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Walt Frazier, and Bob Cousy. And I want to first start with Magic Johnson's comments about this ranking, which for the first time ever, he actually had a noteworthy and interesting tweet about it. So let me get into that. There's no way Stockton and Curry are better than Isaiah. Let me remind everyone, young and old, I played against Isaiah Thomas when he was hurt and hobbling on one leg, and he still scored 25 points in one quarter in the NBA Finals. Now, last episode, I brought up the fact that Isaiah rarely got into the top 5 in MVP voting. My co-host pretty much mentioned that it's because of the era he played in, which I agree with. He played in the Jordan, the Bird, the Magic Johnson era. With that being said, Isaiah is the only one who led a team to beat all 3 of those super greats in the playoffs. I'll be honest, first off the bat, Magic Johnson's absolutely right about John Stockton. Was never one of the great players. Was the second best player on his team. Was a very, very good player. Times could be great. More compiled his stats over time. Definitely a Hall of Famer. So it came down to Steph Curry and Isaiah Thomas. I know Steph Curry, title winner last year, MVP. He's now having this great historic type of season this year and hasn't won the title yet this year, but that would probably change the conversation. But is Steph Curry at this point of his career already ahead of the great Isaiah Thomas? Would love to get your opinion, guys.
I think the interesting thing about this ESPN ranking is that they combined career numbers with peak seasons. So they kind of sort of gave the almost the excuse to put Stockton that high based on what's been accumulated versus someone like Steph, whose single season, trumps everybody, maybe bar Magic's best year. So I think Stockton's the one, in my opinion, who's ranked a little high. I don't think I have as much of a problem with Steph being 4 as much as I have with Isaiah not being ahead of Stockton. I mean, if I was sort of a GM picking and going to war with the team, I would definitely want Isaiah as my point guard ahead of Stockton. Stockton's going to be great over the long haul, but I have more chance of winning a title if Isaiah's the man at points. So my perspective is Isaiah deserves to be number 3, and then I would sort of maybe move Stockton to 5. But I don't even think at his peak Stockton was as good as Steve Nash at his peak. So you know what? I think as durable as Stockton was, I think he may be a little overrated in this sense when we're talking all-time best point guards and
But you do have Isaiah at number 3 for now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I have no problems putting Isaiah at 3. I think the dual championships, I think what he was able to do as the leader of that team in an era that was competitive and all the rest that goes with it, all the stuff that we know about the bad boy Pistons. Steph seems like it's a little bit premature. And if you're going to put Steph in that list, I think arguments could be made about maybe Gary Payton or maybe even Russell Westbrook potentially being on that list as well, given how unguardable both Steph and Russ are, currently. But, again, it's this thing where they have to balance historical relevance and game changes and transcendent figures. And, it's this thing where there are actually no right or wrong answers here. It's all subjective. But I think Magic, knowing exactly the kind of fight that Isaiah has in him, of course he's going to back, his horse in this case. So I think Magic's right. But I also think that there's a number of problems with that list. It's not just Isaiah being behind Stockton and Curry.
Well, I'll get into that too. I just want to get the take on this first. Gino, what about you?
Oh, I think of course you're going to agree with Magic Johnson. He's your guy, and you guys share the same philosophy of the past can never be as good as the present players. So, or backwards, the past are always going to be better than the present players. But I think that Steph Curry. I don't know if they're predicting the rest of Steph Curry's career, because right now, again, it's just hard to say. It's almost even a dumb question to put him against the greats because he's still in his prime or entering his prime. But absolutely, I think Steph Curry is going to finish ahead of Isaiah Thomas rather easily when it's all said and done. 2-time champ, Steph can do that by the end of this season, likely, possibly, right?
Did you just shrug off 2 titles? Like it's so easy in the hardest era in NBA history? Come on, man. I don't disagree with what you're saying, though, Mo. I don't disagree. I will say that, but don't shrug off 2 titles.
Okay, well, listen. Steph is already in the conversation of greatest shooter of all time. There are other things that he is doing that I think will then catapult him.
But are we still having the Steph Curry might be the best shooter? I just thought that was unequivocally proven that he was the best shooter.
No. Listen, I'm just trying to be a politically correct or diplomatic or whatever to all of these people who might have an aneurysm when I say something like that. Best shooter of all time. Best shooter of all time. And when you then take into consideration his point guard abilities, I think when it's all said and done, absolutely he's going to be the better player than Isaiah. But right now, it's just kind of odd.
Was it Mo? So this is one of the situations, in your opinion, where they added Shaq to the top 50 of all time back in 97, 4 years in, because they predicted more of his career? Is that what the situation is right here?
Possibly. Yes. Because the trend that we're seeing from Steph Curry, the career path we're seeing, they're going ahead and putting him in the top 5 of all time, but it's not done yet. I mean, gosh, he could be number 1 of all time when it's all said and done. Who knows, right? It's just a little premature. No, I mean, come on, don't take it literally. It's an exaggeration. You know what I mean? It's like it's still way too early to make a list of top point guards of all time and put a current player, current MVP.
So you're saying that we need to have each player play a minimum of 10 seasons before we can make this call?
That would be a better argument than what it is right now.
So that's
because you're right, dude. Where's Westbrook? Because listen, we're watching Westbrook right now, and we're seeing things we may have never seen before.
No one on that list, and I can say this without hesitation. Not a single person on that list could guard Westbrook right now.
Right,
and
yet, so at the end of the career, we'll likely see Westbrook in these lists, but we don't see him there right now. It's kind of unfair to Westbrook. It's a little unfair to Steph as well.
Okay. It's also unfair to Isaiah Thomas that people still don't like him this late.
Yes.
I mean, he's been retired for so long.
That's a huge point. He's right. Gino is right in so many levels on that one.
What do you mean not like him? He's on the top freaking 4?
He's disliked by so many people that he was left off the Dream Team. He was left off the MVP voting.
No.
He was
not disliked by everybody.
Okay, Jordan.
Just disliked by Michael
Jordan. But I mean, you know what I mean? He's so disliked as a person that he falls down to number 5. And it's a little bizarre to me that he's that far down.
So your point, Gino, is that this is partially a popularity contest, and Isaiah fails at that.
Oh, of course,
it is. It is when you're thinking about. But my another thing here on this list for me is that I just don't like Oscar Robertson being considered a point guard. He's to me he's more of a point forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
but
you're saying he's more of a combo guard.
I understand that piece. I will say this, Mo, that you think I'm always about the past. If Steph wins another title this year and does it with an MVP in a historic way, I'll consider the argument with him and Isaiah. Maybe even put him ahead. But right now, Isaiah's better for the era he played in. Isaiah's better for the era.
The rules were different too. Remember, Isaiah
doesn't even have a Finals MVP. Isaiah does.
Who cares about a Finals MVP? I mean, come on, he's got hardware too.
He beat Jordan, Bird, and Magic, and that was a big deal. But guys, I want to shift to the other part of the list. Chris Paul 6, Steve Nash 7, Jason Kidd 8. I have a problem with this. I don't think Chris Paul is better than Jason Kidd. I don't know if Steve Nash is better than Jason Kidd, but he won 2 MVPs, so it's hard to kind of counteract that.
I think
Jason Kidd led his team to 2 finals, and then as an elder statesman was a point guard on a championship team. What do you guys think of that?
At his apex, I think Steve Nash was the better playmaker, the better creator, the better shooter. Steve Nash did more for his team, like guided that Western Conference power in the Suns, the run and gun Suns, the 7 seconds or less Suns, to, a 60-win season and, a couple of games within the NBA Finals, Conference Finals, whatever. If not for the Robert Horry ice hockey body check, who knows, they could have won a title that year. Whereas Jason Kidd's 2 trips to the finals, well, maybe when the East was at its weakest. So as much as Kidd turned those nets around and as much as Kidd matters, I have no problems with Nash being ahead of Kidd on that list.
How about Chris
Paul? You have problems with Paul ahead of him?
Look, I could see the argument being made for Chris Paul being the classic point guard and the distributor and the feisty guy and the steals and obviously, leading New Orleans when he was a rookie and then all the things that he has done in terms of being a dream teamer. And, I just think that, a case could be made for Chris Paul, but I think that, the Chris Paul, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, that sort of trio, I think any way you slot those guys in, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. Right. I don't think we're going to get, ourselves, hot and heavy over the fact that, one guy's ahead of the other. I don't think, that stuff seems trivial or semantic to me.
I like J. Kidd. I would put J. Kidd ahead of Chris Paul, ahead of Steve Nash. He has that one championship. But aside from that, you're looking at a bigger point guard here. He's not quite a point forward like an Oscar Robertson. But the way he ran the court, the way he dictated that offense on the break. From one end of the court to the other. He did everything on the court, and he played both sides. Steve Nash never played defense, and that's maybe he tried, but he just couldn't.
Offensively, it didn't matter.
Oh yeah. But I mean, he
was that?
tried, but he just couldn't play defense the way like a Chris Paul or a Jason Kidd did. But I mean, I love Steve Nash. He's one of my favorite.
Yeah, but
players
if this
of
is
all time,
about defense, Magic wouldn't be number one.
But Magic was overall.
Whoa.
Overall, Magic Johnson still is still the standard when
Yeah,
it comes to
but
point
on the
guard.
spectrum of
Defensive point guard is not
spectrum-
always that important. It's not always that important.
On a
at the point guard
spectrum
position.
of point guards, Steve Nash and Magic Johnson are at one end, and Jay Kidd and Chris Paul are at the other because of the fact that two of them were just so phenomenal in terms of playmaking and in terms of leading teams and in terms of changing culture. Whereas the other two were sort of more well-rounded, both ends, as you said, Gino. But, I think if you're going to make the case that Steve Nash falls because of the defense, then the same case should be made for Magic not being number one because he couldn't play both ends as well as some other guys.
But Magic,
Or Steph at 4.
Yeah, but Magic
He
had a
did
little bit of a
everything.
hard time guarding the smaller guards, but he did lead the league in
He got
steals at one
blitzed by
point.
the smaller guards. Kevin Johnson and these other guys would tear him up. Like it
When you
wasn't
do
like he
everything
was.
else, when you do everything else
But-
perfect, you can
Yeah.
fall by the
He
wayside.
has-
It's not
But
like
that's what I'm
center,
saying.
He has
where
one
defense-
flaw.
centers have
One
that play
flaw.
defense.
One
was that?
flaw. Defense is one flaw.
No, his on-ball defense is a flaw. His on-ball one-on-one defense against the smaller, quicker
I'm
guards
not,
is a
I'm
flaw.
not saying that Magic doesn't deserve number one spot. This isn't what I'm arguing here. I'm just saying that the case against Steve Nash's defense shouldn't be as sort of concrete as what it is versus Jason Kidd's all-round game. I'm just saying that if you're going to crucify Steve Nash for his lack of D, you have to do the same thing to obviously Magic Johnson because, it's not like either one of them played Walt Frazier level D or, were Gary Payton-esque in terms of the way they could lock down guys. So, I just think that, again, we're talking top 10 here. It's like these guys are so freaking phenomenal
Yeah.
that what we're
Time's
doing
up.
is we're picking hairs.
Yeah.
Time's up, guys. You want to call timeout here real quick, Chris? Because I feel like it's kind of still a heated debate here going. You guys want to do a timeout here, or you guys want to go ahead and take a break and go to the fourth?
And I think Brad brought up a good point as we finish off. I would just replace Bob Cousy at the end, put Gary Payton on there, and I would definitely think hard about Russell Westbrook. Maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe Walt Clyde Frazier gets pushed down too because they are phenomenal talents to replace them on the list. But I think Payton should be there, and that's the last comment I have about that. But great heated discussion, guys.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have quarter number 4. Don't go away. It is the full court report.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Let's go!
Nth Degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
Welcome back to the full court report. We have quarter number 4, and I am taking point guard duties for this quarter. So let's go ahead and put 12 minutes on the clock and talk about the All-Star voting, which is about, by the time this show airs, we're about 4 days before voting ends. And some of the returns have come already. Kobe Bryant is blistering everyone away. I mean, he has, if I'm not mistaken, his lead, or he has more votes than LeBron and Kevin Durant has combined. I mean, it's unreal how much Kobe has been voted in. I guess obviously this is all because it's his farewell tour. It's his last season. But before we get into the other positions and front court, back court, the conferences, I just want to throw out there.
They're going to have to rename the weekend Kobe weekend or something. Like it's literally his weekend for 3 days.
Do you guys have any problems with this, though?
No.
Obviously, he's not playing in an all-star caliber. Why not? Because why not?
Because
when all-star appearances, hey, listen, before you get all sentimental about your beloved Kobe.
The game is custom built for fans and television.
Yes.
It's fine. Who cares?
Okay,
Do it.
then why do we go 12-time All-Star when it's not? It's losing its credibility.
No, you're right. That's a good
Most of
point.
them are
It's
earned.
losing its credibility.
Because it's the All-Star Weekend has always been a marketing tool for the NBA. So when you say
Then why do we
12-time
use it?
All-Star,
Okay, no,
Well,
here's
why
the
do we
answer.
use
No, here's
12-time
the
marketing
answer.
marketing star? I mean,
Yes,
no, because
yes.
when listen, I'm sure their contracts have clauses or bonuses for All-Star appearances and all of that stuff. If it's going to be a marketing thing,
the
why does
reserves
it?
carry weight. The reserves carry weight because the reserves are voted in by the coaches, the very people who have to scout against them. But you're right. When it comes to talking about people's careers, the only team we should reference is the All-NBA team. If you're not on the All-NBA team, which takes into account the whole season's work, if you're a 6-time All-NBA first-teamer, you really deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But a 12-time All-Star guy, You can get voted in just
it
because you're
is
popular. Like,
it is really losing its credibility, its luster when you say he's a 15-time All-Star. To me, that's 15 time. That's probably what he may have been an All-Star 12 times for half of a season, and the other 3 times was sentimental vote. I mean, it's
right because it's only half a season's worth of.
It's right. It's a half a season. You're not an All-Star for the entire season. You're also half the season.
It's also a reflection on how beloved the player is.
Right. So what?
Which is why they have the fan vote for starters and then the coach vote for the reserve. So if you're a 12-time reserve, it actually
have
means
a People Choice Awards
that's what it is.
Awards at the end.
That's what it is. It's the People's Choice Award.
It's supposed to be a game of the best players. And again, this debate goes on in all sports, not the popular ones, but the best ones.
Ironically enough, the most popular players are often the best players. It's rare that you get a guy.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that. Okay,
I'm glad you said that too.
I'm glad you said that because let's look at some of the returns and let's talk about whether some of the popular players are in fact some of the better ones. You have, for example, in the Western Conference front court, Jaja Pachulia of the Dallas Mavericks, the juggernaut Pachulia, is ahead of DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins.
He might be the best chef in the NBA, so credit there.
DeMarcus Cousins, arguably the best center, maybe in the Western Conference, is under Jaja. Again, you go back to earlier comment, Gino, showing how Isaiah Thomas was not well liked. Talk about not being well liked, man.
Right.
You're number 9 in the front court.
How many people did Mark Cuban pay? How many people did Mark Cuban pay to get Zaza those votes? And how many people did he pay off to not vote for DeMarcus? Because there should be some sort of internal investigation in terms of how
does Jaja get more votes than freaking Dirk?
Georgia. The population of Georgia voted for Jaja Pachulia.
It's winter time in Georgia. They're stuck at home and they're negative 25 centigrade and they're just voting away.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make the joke about, are we even sure they have the internet over there? But you know what?
The answer is no, but that's not nice.
Again, it takes away spots. I mean, you put a guy like Kobe on there, it takes away spots from a more deserving player. But are there any other players here on this list, and you guys have it in front of you, that really shock you? Obviously, the glaring one is Jaja Pachulia over DeMarcus. That's the crime here. But are there any ones that kind of strike you as a little bit odd? I mean, you have Draymond.
What? Kristaps number 9. He's number 9 in the Eastern Conference front court. Or he's number 9. Carl Anthony Towns should be number 8. I can't deal with that.
Look at the guys he's ahead of. The only one you can argue there that it's a travesty of any kind is Paul Millsap. Everybody else there, Kristaps ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Valanciunas, Gortat, Noah,
that's all
Carroll.
because of media and popularity, and playing in New York versus playing in Atlanta is going to do that to a player, especially if it's a great white hope, as Chris has sort of mentioned, in previous shows. There's a huge Kristaps is a little flavor of the month, but he's also done enough highlights-wise to sort of get the casual fan to sit up and go, "Ooh, this guy is ahead of projections." And you know what? I think he's worth a vote. He's obviously not in the top 4, so we don't have to necessarily fear that he's going to make the starting lineup. But there is probably an outside chance that the hour he might make it.
Hassan Whiteside is only one ahead of him. Hassan Whiteside is better than 8, in my opinion. Yeah. He's better than Love. He should be ahead of Love.
But you know what? You know what else? I mean, looking at this list, there's also a lot of international players on this list. I think for the first time in quite some time. And I know that the brand of the NBA has become such a global brand, but I think the way that people vote does
because it's all internet-based voting. I remember when I first started voting for All-Star people, it was by paper ballot only at
love that.
Stores.
Yeah. So now you see guys from voting for their countrymen.
Now you can tweet. Now it's 14-year-olds tweeting once a day.
Yeah.
No, and it's not just that. You got a teammate who's got 30 million followers. He'll say, "Hey, everybody, tweet. Go ahead and vote for my teammate RT this." And all of a sudden, the guy's he's got 70,000 new followers.
You talk about Whiteside not getting the love. Gino, didn't you say during the week that the Heat's fan base or something dropped considerably? Their following since LeBron left.
I think they lost 300,000 followers.
Those 300,000 people might have voted for Whiteside because he played alongside LeBron. Now all that love goes to someone else.
Right.
Now, again, to break this down in any extended period of time is really pointless when we all know, yes, it is a popularity contest. There are some glaring, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But, we can talk more about the All-Star teams and the All-Star game as we get closer to it. And when these rosters are announced, which should be happening in the next week or two, we'll find out who actually makes the All-Star game. Now, I just want to kind of jump to... Yeah, I just want to jump to another topic here real quick. Things are kind of looking good in New York. I was a little bit excited about this topic coming in here tonight, and then freaking the Knicks lost to Brooklyn and kind of ruined my thunder here. But you know what? They were 500 coming into tonight. They are right there in the playoff picture, not at the number 8 seed, but they're just kind of right underneath. So I want to ask you guys, are you surprised by the Knicks? Is this something that...
No.
I mean, we also already know that this is a successful year because they are as far as they are right now. At 20-20 at this point,
more wins already than all of last year. I mean, that's the big takeaway for them.
Right.
No,
I don't. You know, we can bring up top.
I call them a playoff team. I'll still stick by that. They'll find a way at the bottom end to get in the playoffs. Again, we talked about Kristaps exceeding expectations. The rest of the team, they're finding good rotations, which I mentioned before. And I mean, Carmelo's not going to play every game, but when he does, he's serviceable. I don't think he's the great all-star as he used to be. Actually, I know that, but it's good enough to get this team in a lower spot in the playoffs.
I want to ask you specifically, who they're going to have to bump somebody off, right? And you know, of the fringe playoff teams, Knicks, Celtics, Wizards, Hornets, and Bucks, they have the worst roster of that crew. Now the Bucks, they're a little bit further out. They're 3 games out of that kind of that group, that fringe group. But of the Celtics, Wizards, Hornets, you know, the Knicks don't have the roster. What happens when Kristaps hits that rookie wall? If he hits a rookie wall, they're in trouble.
What about the Magic?
They're in trouble.
Are you sold on the Magic? Are you sold on the Magic staying there too?
I think the Magic have a better squad. Now, listen, easily the Hornets can kind of get right ship again. The Wizards can do the same. The Celtics, I know.
The Hornets are sliding in all the wrong places. I don't know about the Hornets getting back.
They're game and a half out. Slope. Sure, game and a half out, though. So if you take any of those teams and, you know, you're going to put the Knicks above, who's you going to slide off? You're going to slide off the Magic or the Pistons?
Yeah, but you're talking about these teams. The one thing the Knicks have is they have a guy who could play at superstar level, which is so important in the NBA, and Carmelo Anthony. These other teams don't have it. So, I mean, you said the Magic have a better team, but they can be springboard by one player.
Right. Chris's point being that out of all the teams you mentioned, not one of them has a player at Melo's caliber.
No, not even close either. Not even
close. But I mean, come on, it's not a 5-1. You got John Wall. You got John Wall in Washington.
There's no question, but Carmelo can, if he turns it on, it's another level.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing, though. I wrote off Derek Fisher as a coach, and I didn't necessarily think Phil Jackson's 5 years in New York, which is his current contract, was enough time for him to right the ship. Now, all of a sudden, they seem to have reluctantly picked Kristaps, and it seems to turn out to be a big blessing in disguise for them. They're really relevant all of a sudden, which I think is good for the NBA. And it's interesting, and I mentioned this, I guess, off air and want to reiterate, is they could finish above 500 and still miss the playoffs. Now, that wouldn't have happened, obviously, a year ago in the East, and I think that's a great sign for the NBA, but not obviously a great sign for Knicks fans. But that, to me, is kind of the most interesting sort of subplot here, is that even if the Knicks can finish with 42 wins, 40 losses, they still might miss the playoffs. But I would still, if I was the Knicks organization, see this as a huge turnaround and the building block for a brighter future. And I think this season's a success no matter how it finishes.
And nobody thinks that this is a fluke. They're way overachieving. No. I mean, to even think that they're going to make the playoffs this year is still madness for me. You know, so excuse me. I mean, again, happy for them. Great for the game, as you said, Brad. A success for Knicks standards, but to say playoff team with this
which is
squad,
super low, of course,
is so bold.
That's just so condescending the way you said that. Oh, I'm happy for them, but for them to make the playoffs.
No, I'm happy for them. I lived in New York. I was born in New York. I'm happy for them in my roots for the city. But to say that this squad is a playoff squad is just too bold of a statement.
You don't have to condescend them in doing it. How dare you?
Well, hold on. Wait, are they your favorite team? Hold on. Let me ask you this, Chris. Rarely do we ever kind of get the local vibe. I know we're 4 guys, 4 different cities. We should always kind of tap into the local vibe of the NBA basketball in our cities. Chris, what's the word on the street over there in New York about the Knicks? Are everybody happy?
You would think that they'd be over the moon excited because of how bad they were last year, but this fan base is now very reluctant, especially that they got good a few years ago, made the playoffs, and then they fell off again. This team is almost reluctant. This fan base is almost reluctant to just get too excited. This kind of a wait and see, especially this year. We've seen the ups and downs of this team, and that's why the reasons why they might not make the playoffs. So they're reluctant, but I think they're, especially over the Kristaps thing, they're very excited, and if they make the playoffs, you will see a very, very excited fan base, as New York does get when their teams are winners.
And then they got to face the Cleveland Cavaliers if they
Yeah,
don't make it.
you know what? It's funny. So now we're talking about a 1 versus 8 that will be huge ratings, which the NBA never gets for 1 versus 8.
Right. Well, that's actually it's like a dream
versus
matchup. Melo
LeBron
versus
James.
LeBron for 7 games. Yeah.
Right, and then you would like to see, of course, the Knicks. I mean, again, let's say they make the playoffs. Brad, you were saying this off air that if there was a 8th seed that would give the Cavaliers problems, it'll be New York.
It's more likely going to be the Knicks than it will be the Magic. I mean, I've got respect for Orlando. I think what they're doing is phenomenal, and Scott Skiles deserves to be a Coach of the Year contender, at least to date. But going into a 7-game series with the Cavaliers, I just see Orlando getting swept. Whereas at least I think that the Knicks could maybe steal a game or 2 away from them and make it super exciting for television purposes.
Not a bad thought.
Sure. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have overtime. It is the Full Court Report. Back after this on Go Away.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Full Court Report. This is the overtime session where we, expand a little bit on some of the sort of topics that are occupying our attention and, most likely basketball related. So the NFL just announced that they're moving the St. Louis Rams back to LA. Now, once I caught wind of this, I naturally thought, man, there are going to be a lot of pissed off people. And of course, my automatic thought process took me to Mo's Sonics when they were hijacked and taken down to OKC. So I thought I should talk a little, or wanted to sort of float the idea of what have been the biggest NBA moves, either relocations or trades that have upset us the most. I know last episode I might have ruffled some feathers when I suggested that the Clips should entertain the idea that Blake Griffin might be better off being traded. And of course, if LA ever did that, there would be massive blowback. So yeah, man, let's hear from everybody. What have been the biggest trades or relocations that have upset us, grated with us, whatever the case may be? Mo, are you just still upset about the Sonics, or is there something else?
Yeah,
that's,
of course, I'm super upset about the Sonics only because I've seen we see what the Oklahoma Thunder and that personnel have become, and Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. My God, man, if those guys were in Sonic uniforms until this very day, I mean. Just amazing. I just can't imagine how big of a fan I would be with those guys there as well. But I think maybe the trade that upset me the most was when Gary Payton was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, even though that brought back Ray Allen. It was just, the glove was a Sonic. And you think about him now, you think of him as a Sonic. And it upset me a lot because he was a franchise player.
You saw it as some sort of betrayal
player.
that like Seattle owed him more?
No, well, as a fan, I'm a younger guy at the time, and the jerseys. I'm like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? He's the shoes.
There's no eBay. How do I flip it?
Yeah. So that's kind of my issue with it. When you're younger, you kind of feel bad about the jersey collection and whatnot. So I would say probably the one I can recall the one that hurt the most would be the Gary Payton going to the Bucks.
Mo,
and
you one of those guys that after he got traded, were you one of those guys that refused to update your 2K or your video game and refused to move him like the NBA did? Like, did you keep him in the Sonics uniform?
No, listen. When I play 2K, I always play simulation. I always make sure the guys, they score the points that they average and all that. So I'm really big on making sure that everybody's on the right spot and all that thing. Yeah,
that is crazy. You're insane. Yeah. So much for a video game.
Sure.
Chris, man, how about yourself? What's happening in New York? Any gut wrenching trades or any relocations that have stayed with you?
Yeah, well, the one I just really kind of jumped out and I remember is Chris Webber's draft day trade. I really wanted to see Webber, as good as a player Anthony Hardaway was, I really wanted to see Webber and Shaq play together. It would have been interesting to see and what would have happened. I know that immediately Webber was going from the Warriors very quickly, and Penny Hardaway, his career got sidelined, derailed a bit with injuries. I would have loved to see Webber and Shaq play, and it was a big deal when the Magic got that lottery ticket and still got the number 1 pick, and everyone said, okay, it's going to be Shaq and Webber. There's a big buildup, and the Magic turned everyone on their heads making that trade. It's almost like what could have been type of situation, and yeah, I would love to see that.
Right. Baffling then, baffling now. I mean, I don't know anyone, except the Magic's GM, has a real sort of, legitimate answer for why they, would take Weber 1 and then move him for Penny at 3 and all this other stuff. I mean, again, you're right. We never saw whatever that could have become, and they complemented each other so nicely in terms of power forward center combinations and the like. So, I don't know. I hear you though, man. I hear though. A lot of people still talk about Weber being drafted by the Magic and then being swapped. So, Gino, man, what's going on with you? Where do you feel betrayal lies?
I'm staying away from the moving Shaq for a bunch of players from Miami, because that would be my obvious answer for when the Lakers traded away Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm gonna go with when the Warriors broke up Run TMC to get Billy Owens.
That's a pretty good one.
Why would you want to do that? I mean, Mitch Richmond, one of the best players during that era, especially with that trio, was fantastic. They were fun to watch. I mean, it was. I guess if you look at the way they played, it kind of reminded they were ahead of their time a little bit.
Sure.
They were, and then they get a player like Billy Owens who kind of just never really panned out. And they had an excuse as to get a good player, need to trade away a good player. But why would you mess it up? Why would you mess up a team like the Run TMC? And it was painful to watch. I was really young back then too. So just to see that the team disbanded was very painful.
No, man, I hear that. And for anyone who obviously doesn't know Run DMC, because it was before their time, obviously a reference to the New York hip hop group Run DMC. So just thought I'd throw that little history lesson in. For me, I'll always remember Allen Iverson being traded from Philadelphia and what that meant to the Sixers' legacy and his time there and everything else. And when Iverson was sent to Denver, of all places, I was just like, man, what is this world coming to? How dare they sell the answer out like that? But, I guess that's business, and what do you do? All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Mo. I'll throw it back to you, man. You're going to close the show.
Yeah, all right. Let's get out of here. Before we end the show, though, let's go ahead and go around the room. Last words, little plug, maybe your social media accounts, whatever you want to throw out there before we wrap it up tonight. So let's go to Gino first in Manila. What do you got?
It's at Gino Rufino, JINNO, Twitter and Instagram. And obviously, Chris, it's time to put up the not Donald Trump Twitter account.
That's right. Yeah. Good stuff. Chris, what do you got?
As always, at Not Bill Walton. And for the Twitter All-Star voting, I am behind Kristaps Porzingis. So please vote for me to go ahead of him. The Latvian vote is crushing me right now. So it's at Not Bill Walton.
That's right. Brad in Australia.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BackpackBaller. That's all I got. I'm going to make it short and sweet today.
Cool. DJ Mo Twister on Instagram and Twitter. We'll see you guys next time again for more of the Full Court Report. We want to thank you for watching our show. If you're listening to it on download, we appreciate that as well. See you next time, guys. Bye.